Story 1. At work I am a lawyer and a client called saying she needed help with a merger and that I should not worry because it would be very easy. The project took 6 months and I almost had a breakdown. She did not understand why the bill was so high because she thought the work was easy. Story 2. Playing the triangle. A lot of my non-musician friends joke about how easy it is to play, but when they actually hold it, they look foolish. Story 3. Dancing is not easy, but when I watch people do it, they are so skilled and it flows so smoothly that it looks effortless. I am 25 and dance like a 50-year-old at a reunion. Dancers are so graceful and it is honestly amazing. It is hilarious when I try to do anything and fail. Story 4. Drawing something from memory, like a bird. In my mind, yes, that is a bird. On paper, is that a bird? Story 5. Digging. Whenever it is shown in movies or television, it looks very easy, but the moment you have to grab a shovel and dig into the dirt, it becomes miserable. Story 6. Those completely automated public Turing tests to tell computers and humans apart on Google are impossible for me to read. The website always thinks I'm a robot. Story 7. A basic physical exam at the doctor's office looks simple. Look at the throat, listen to the chest, and confirm the heart is present. In reality, doctors spend thousands of hours practicing so that when a patient presents with a heart murmur or an unusual appearance in a child, they can recognize it immediately. There are also entire class sections on how to respectfully ask a patient to turn their head, cough, and allow palpation of the groin and scrotum to check for hernias. Story 8. Easy as pie. Pie is the most difficult thing I have ever made. Story 9. Street names. People think it is fun and suggest names, but every natural feature, from trees to lakes, has many variants that cannot be reused for emergency service reasons. Cities also often want to change a street name whenever a road changes direction, regardless of logical breakpoints such as intersections. Story 10. Pretty much anything a professional does looks effortless because it is their job. Throw a football 65 yards accurately. PSSH. Simple if you are an elite athlete. Cut open a chest cavity to repair coronary arteries. That is another day at the office for a surgeon. Frame a structural wall in a 2,000 square foot house. It may seem like nothing more than wood and nails. Straighten crowded teeth. Surely it is just a matter of wearing trays 1 through 55 and then it is all straight. In reality, each of these tasks requires someone who trained for years to visualize the problem, solve it, and execute it precisely. It looks easy because they practiced intensely. Story 11. Making lemonade. Squeezing one lemon is easy, but it does not produce much juice. Story 12. Flying remote-controlled helicopters looks effortless when watching seasoned flyers, but in reality it's like balancing a marble on an upturned bowl. Story 13. Hanging out with friends during that in-between period when you are not at school but are still dependent on your family, with spare time and no way to go anywhere. Story 14. At midnight in the library I imagine a map. Clear paths, marked milestones, and a guiding light called a rubric. As a graduate student I crave structure, not as a cage but as a scaffold that supports daring leaps. Structure translates the fog of expectations into a series of manageable steps. A rubric turns vague praise and cryptic feedback into specific targets to aim for and a language to discuss progress with advisors and peers. Creativity thrives when constraints are intelligible. When boundaries are arbitrary or hidden, energy dissipates in second-guessing. When criteria are explicit, experiment and play become efficient. Hypotheses can be tested, failures interpreted, and iterations grounded in shared standards. A rubric can be a conversation starter, not a final verdict. It can be revised as the project grows, shaping both evaluation and teaching. I imagine collaborative rubrics that evolve during lab meetings, annotated by students who contest weightings and clarify expectations. I imagine timelines with built-in flexibility, checkpoints that reward risk-taking and reflection as much as deliverables. The desire for structure is not obedience but authorship. To co-design the map we navigate. What would change if every program provided a transparent rubric and flexible structure? Perhaps anxiety would give way to ambition, and the messy work of discovery would feel less like stumbling in the dark and more like setting a course with instruments that invite improvisation. Such clarity could turn uncertainty into collaboration and make learning a shared, iterative adventure for everyone and foster sustained growth. Story 15. Actually doing things is simple in theory. Just act. In reality, I procrastinate until I hate myself. Story 16. Maintaining friendships from high school or college after you graduate can be difficult. People get so busy with work and starting families that friendships are often put on the back burner. You may stop talking to someone for a few months and then realize you are no longer friends. Story 17. I use a wheelchair, and people usually do not believe me when I say that getting around can be difficult because many think pushing a wheelchair is easy. When you use a wheelchair all day and it is essentially your only means of transportation, moving around looks natural. That becomes a problem when I point out accessibility issues because people see how I navigate and assume it is easy just because I make it look easy. Story 18. Finding the person I always saw myself falling in love with. Story 19. Folding fitted sheets is difficult. I have watched instructional videos that make it look easy, but I always end up with a crumpled mess, and that is how I put them away. Story 20. Finding a career you want to go to every day that does not crush your soul can be difficult. When you were young, teachers told you that you could be anything, but that seems unrealistic when you have bills to pay and want some extra money. I did not go to college and sometimes worry I cannot make lateral career moves without a degree, but when I see friends struggling with student loan payments, I think I may not have it so bad. Story 21. Beekeeping. You see videos of older men in veils and beekeeping suits, and it makes it seem relaxing and easy. It turns out that bees are not good at finding enough food on their own. They can get sick easily, and in winter they can develop mold. Have you ever seen moldy bees? Sometimes they are not even dead. It is still worth it. Edit. Thank you so much, fellow beekeepers. I did not have time to answer many questions. In reading them, I found a kind and knowledgeable community bringing awareness and information. Also, obligatory thanks for the gold. I am glad my experience with bees has garnered attention, and I appreciate the insightful knowledge being shared. Story 22. Socializing is difficult for me. I have severe social anxiety. Small interactions with strangers and even people I have known for a while are really hard. I do not hate people or dislike being around them, but I am bad at starting and maintaining conversations. Outgoing people make it look easy, but it is not for me. Story 23. I play instruments. I have played most percussion instruments, the trumpet, and some baritone. I was first chair tuba and sousaphone for 4 years. Difficulty varies based on the instrument and the player's physical attributes. Story 24. Adults never had to do homework. They could stay up late, eat what they wanted, and had the money to do so. I wish I were a naive kid again. Story 25. Fuck you, duvet covers. Holy crap. I thought it was just me that had lifelong problems with them. Rest in peace, inbox, and massive thanks for the gold and silver. Story 26. I am in my 20s. As a kid, I thought by now I would have everything figured out and my life on track. I am still uncertain, and I now also struggle with depression. Story 27. Golf is difficult. Many people think they can just grip it and rip it, but they do not realize how challenging it is to make a consistently good swing with solid contact. Story 28. I am sorry you are feeling this way. Are you thinking about hurting yourself right now? If you are in immediate danger, call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, call Samaritans at 116 123. In Australia, call Lifeline at 13 11 14. If you are elsewhere, please contact local emergency services or your country's crisis hotline. Committing suicide seems easy, but when the time comes it can be very hard to go through with it. Then you spiral further down the rabbit hole, thinking you are so worthless you cannot even kill yourself. True story. Edit. Christ on a bike. I did not expect such a turnout. I would like to thank those who gave support and all of you for sharing parts of yourselves. It is very sad to see so many in the same boat. I am a little worried it may capsize. Thank you, Reddit. Hang in there, not like that. Put the rope down. You have been great. Story 29. Selling panties online. I've seen posts claiming it's easy to exploit desperate men on Craigslist by buying women's underwear, spritzing it with perfume, and reselling it online. It's not that simple. Today buyers want photos of the exact item on a real woman or proof such as panty trust certification. They often request extras or special conditions, and most disappear when it's time to pay. You'll sift through hundreds of responses, many seeking dirty talk or photos rather than making a purchase. My advice, don't bother. Leave it to cam models who can sell their items as part of their work. There will always be someone willing to go further and make the sale. Story 30. Marriage is often thought of as romantic love for the person you marry. In many ways you do love them, but people in long, successful marriages will tell you that it takes work to make a marriage last a lifetime. That level of commitment is hard to maintain. The rewards are enormous, and you will never be closer to another human being if you are doing it right. My wife and I just celebrated our 40th anniversary, and we have known each other for more than 45 years. We plan to be together until the end. Story 31. Life after university graduation is challenging. People always say they cannot wait to graduate, but little do they know it is just going to be an uphill battle from there. Story 32. Apparently, figuring out what the opposite of easy peasy lemon squeezy would be. Story 33. Creating a routine is the easy part. Actually following through and maintaining that routine is the problem. Story 34. Writing a post or comment on Reddit that gets recognition. Story 35. Mathematics. I swear to God, pieces of my soul became trapped in math work and perished when I burned them. Update. Oh my frickety frack, everyone. This is my first award and my most upvoted post ever. Thank you so much. Story 36. Rainbow Road in Mario Kart. I still do not think I have ever come first. Story 37. Atari video games look basic, but for crying out loud. Story 38. Programming. Programming is like Lego sets. Anyone can follow the instructions and build the Millennium Falcon. It is a whole different ballgame when you are given a pile of assorted blocks and someone says, okay, now recreate the Taj Mahal, but the client wants it to look like Big Ben. It also needs to interlock with the Sphinx, the Great Wall, the Eiffel Tower, and the Maojang Temple to create a super monument. Yes, I know the Maojang Temple has not been designed yet. Just make some good guesses. We can add parts to it once we know what we need. Story 39. Writing a long story. I'm about to finish wrapping up my first seriously long-form piece of writing. It's going to be about 160,000 words in total. You might think that's not too long, or that you could write that in a month or two by producing a couple thousand words a day, or that a story simply appears fully formed. You would be wrong. Writing, as enjoyable as it can be for author and audience, is a lot of work you do not see. You see the finished product, but not the drafts, discarded scenes, alternate versions, conversations with editors, free writing exercises, and all the ideas that never make it. I estimate I have easily written more than 1,000,000 words behind the scenes to make this project happen. It sounds easy. You have a plot, you start at page 1, and you write through to the end. Much of my writing is out of order. Starting from page 1 is honestly a snooze fest and a chore. I do not want to write the part of a fantasy story about a farm boy baling hay. Nobody really wants that unless they are a medievalist and the book goes full Tolkien. I have probably deleted 75% of all the words I have written for the project. Beyond producing words, there is tone to consider, characters to track, continuity, foreshadowing, scene building, managing tension, avoiding forced cliches, creating imagery, and writing dialogue that reads well and sounds believable. All of this must be balanced within a word count that gives the reader enough to understand without boring them or wearing your fingers raw. Want to know how long it has taken me to write this thing? 2 fucking years. I have loved it, but it was much harder than it looks when you see only the finished product and think I sat down one day and made it all come to life without complication. Writing a novel-length piece of fiction is tough. I plan to do more, but I no longer believe I can just pump out a piece every couple of months like clockwork at a couple thousand words a day. Story 40. Sleeping. I'm so envious of people who can sleep anytime and anywhere. Story 41. Finding one of those undesirable, poorly paid, underappreciated jobs that people cannot wait to leave. Story 42. Gardening. It is not just water it and you are good. It is constant attention, care, and maintenance. It is really a lot of work if you have a decent-sized garden, but in my opinion, it is well worth it once you are eating what you have grown. Edit. Sometimes I cannot figure out formatting. Story 43. Coding. Watching a tutorial, I think, oh, this is easy. Writing code, I ask, where's the fucking missing semicolon? Story 44. Science. There is a huge difference between being a scientist and being a fan of science. Both are important, but they are not the same. Many people take a science class or start following science-based Facebook, Twitter, and subreddit pages and only see the successes. Science is an endeavor that relies on critical thought and requires equal parts patience, intelligence, and luck. As a researcher doing basic science, you will obtain more than 90% negative results. For every scientific publication you see, there are months or even years of negative results behind it. The content that science fans share on social media, such as pages like I Love Science, is distilled from the frustrations and efforts of scientists who endured long periods of failure. Story 45. Letting go. You will not be able to switch it off instantly. You will not be able to stop whenever you want. You will still crave it and miss it. You will find yourself returning to it because you have repeated the habit so often that your brain rarely notices when you are with it. This could be drugs, a toxic relationship, a hobby you cannot imagine giving up because it brings you joy, such as gaming, crafts, or even your job. You may have to stop because of other, more important and immediate reasons. It hardly matters what it is. Removing it from your life will always be hard. If you must let it go against all odds and contrary to your wishes, be strong. You will probably never feel fully prepared, no matter how much you steel yourself. But you can hold on. Story 46. Changing a headlight on a newer Chevrolet may involve removing the bumper and other components. I missed the twist and pull motion. Story 47. The water level from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Story 48. Diapering, feeding, and getting babies to sleep may look easy until you have 12 babies in your classroom who all need diapers changed, feeding, and to be rocked to sleep within the next 15 minutes. Story 49. Being a good dad is tough. I have an 18-month-old daughter and my wife is expecting. I get up for work, and 12 hours later I am back at home. Almost as soon as I walk through the door, I am on dad duty. I try to entertain my daughter, give my wife some time to relax, sort out dinner, and clean the house. All these things need to be done and there is no time. Then there is time to exercise, spend quality time with my wife, and enjoy my hobbies. I am a gamer. It is a thankless job at times, but my daughter's hugs melt me every time. The real heroes are single parents and parents of children with disabilities. You have strength beyond comprehension. Story 50. I am reading my textbook instead of Reddit. It is open to the correct page in front of me. Story 51. Convincing people that rough, tough lemon stuff is a better alternative to easy peasy lemon squeezy than difficult lemon. Story 52. Creating a high-quality meme is difficult. Inside jokes are usually easy, and memes for content-specific subreddits are straightforward. But making original material for a wider audience, such as the subreddit r/memes, often feels almost impossible if you want it to be widely liked. Story 53. Being a child means you cannot choose what to eat. You cannot take a night shift if you are not a morning person. You cannot relax after school because you come home with stacks of homework every day. You have peers who mistreat you and whom you are forced to be around. You are always under supervision, and nobody takes you seriously. Do not get me wrong. Childhood is full of fun times and I still miss it, but we sometimes take adult life for granted. Story 54. Telling the people closest to you that you are not okay and that you need help. You think about it and play it out in your head. Then your brain takes the worst possible response or outcome if you reached out and puts it front and center on repeat. Any legitimate reaction or discussion is hidden behind the thought of being ridiculed for weakness, having your flaws pointed out, or having the situation minimized. So you hide it, fake it, and cruise through the day on autopilot until a week or two passes and you consider it again. You repeat the cycle, continuously beating yourself up in your own head. If you are strong enough, you deal with it for years, decades even. If you are not, it starts to manifest in the real world and affects how you behave and how you interact with others. Maybe you start to isolate yourself, fearing that in the next conversation you might slip and say something that will let the cat out of the bag. You may become hostile or domineering because that level of interaction is the easiest to get, or perhaps it feels better in some way. In the worst case, you turn to substances to make it go away for a while. You go through these motions repeatedly and end up back at the beginning, thinking about how all the friends you went to school with are now married with kids, buying their first homes, or finding their rhythm with their careers and starting to climb the ladders in their fields. Meanwhile, you sit alone on Reddit, putting thoughts you've had for months into text, partly hoping they get buried. All because you could not find a way to say, "I do not know what I am doing and I need help." Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.